Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm Bilal and this is Bilal Reads. So today I'm here to talk to you about what has to be one of the weirdest books that I've ever read. Mun Mun by Jess Andrews. Sorry about that. But so, Jess Andrews, he's the author of Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl, which I really liked. I also saw the movie which he wrote the screenplay of, and I also really liked the movie. So, going into this book, I had a lot of high expectations because Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl has to be one of my favorite contemporaries. And so, going into this book, I knew very little about it. I didn't even realize it was released. And this book is just so weird, and I don't know how to describe it, but I'm going to try my best. And this video will have spoilers in it, and I'll let you know when they come out. And so, I really liked this book. It was so well done. It was just such a roller coaster because I didn't know what was coming because the flap on the inside doesn't give us much other than a general outline. There's so many twists and turns that I did not see coming at all. So, this book is basically set in this world where the currency, Mun Mun, determines how big you are in size. So the richer you are, the larger you are. The big riches, the people with the most money, like the millionaires, the billionaires and stuff. The multi-millionaires, 100-millionaires, the top 1% basically, they're the size of these giants who live in these floating homes that literally, if taxes get too high for whatever reason, their homes can literally, be carried on a rope and be moved to another location, so they don't have to pay these high taxes. Whereas on the other side of the spectrum, you have the little poors, who are basically smaller than your house cats and are routinely attacked by house cats and killed by them and stuff. And our main character, Warren, is a little poor. He's the tiniest that you can be, but he's really smart and he's trying his best in this world to become a bigger person, literally. He's trying to earn money so he can scale up in size. And so that's basically the plot of this book. This book is honestly one of the few books that I've read that satirize, whatever. It's a satire basically, and it really takes the idea of capitalism and just runs with it, especially modern day American capitalism, and just butchers it to shreds. And so this book, as I said, is about this dude trying to scale up in size, and no matter what he does, he just doesn't do it right until the very end. So now this is going to get into the spoiler aspect. I'm going to do a quick plot summary of the book to kind of describe to you what I mean. So basically what ends up happening is for little poors, the only way to scale up in size is to marry somebody who's bigger than you. So that person and yours bank accounts will merge, and the person who's bigger will have to scale down, but the little poor will get to scale up. And this book has this little size guide. I don't know if you guys can see it. But yeah, so what ends up happening is Warner and his sister Prayer and Warner's best friend Usher decide that Prayer, in order for her to scale up, she has to go to a law school and get one of these rich law students to fall in love with her, and they'll help her scale up while they'll scale down. And what ends up happening is that Prayer doesn't get any of these to fall in love with her. They think she's a prostitute, so they invite her to a party where basically she's prostituted out. Warner has no idea of this, and when he realizes it, he immediately runs to a cop to get help. The cop's like, "LOL, you're little. I don't trust you. Get out! Get out of my face!" And Warner's like, "Oh crap! What do I do?" So he steals the cop's gun, fires it into the window to get them to get Prayer to leave. And so by doing this, he basically is sent to prison. He accepts a terrible plea deal, and he's forced to serve out 8 years. But what ends up happening is that this girl who's very rich, and her name's Kitty, she's studying dreaming. In this world, when you dream, you enter this thing called the dreamscape, which is where you and other people can interact with everybody's dreams. And so she wants to study how prisoners dream, and Warner is a really good dreamer. He can fashion the most beautiful dreams, make everything seem so sweet, realistic, and he's basically the best of the best, and this girl is his rival of sorts. And so Warner wants to help her, but the problem is, in this prison, it's for little poors who are taller than or smaller than house cats. So they're basically kept in cages where the guards make them fight each other. And then the majority of these littles are a part of this gang called the Face Boys. And they're basically to Warner, either join us or we're gonna kill you. And then he tells Kitty everything about how how he tried to save his sister from a life of prostitution and how he's gonna be like killed if he doesn't join. And so she calls her dad up and he immediately sweeps in, helps his sister who's been visiting Warner, and he helps Warner out of prison. And he's like, Warner and your sister, I'm gonna give you a chance to prove your worth to everybody. So he scales them up in size, so they're middle poors. And these family, they're definitely big riches, so they're still double the size of middle poors, which is what they scale Warner and Prayer up to. And so they basically have to prove their worth, and what ends up happening is Warner flunks out of school. So does Prayer, because they're little poors, they didn't have access to schools, proper education. So they don't really know that much, even though they're really smart. Like, Prayer is really good at words, so she wants to be like a lawyer. Whereas Warner is good at math, but they can't really do anything about that because they don't have the same knowledge base as their peers do. So they end up flunking out of school. And then Warner finds out that his friend Usher, who he hasn't seen in years, was kidnapped by the Face Boys, the gang of littles, and they're using him because he's still a little poor. But the thing is, while he was at that law school, he picked up a lot of lawyer information, and he's basically their lawyer because they have a lot of shady business dealings that they want to keep. And so Warner immediately, without thinking, tries to bust him out of prison by bombing the that gang's headquarters, and he's caught by the gang. And you might be wondering, how can these little poors catch Big Warner? Because these little poor gangs work in conjunction with bigger gangs. So the bigger gangs help them catch Warner, and what they do is they shrink Warner back down to his little poor size. They're about to kill him when Warner is like, hey, I'm really great at these dreamscapes, and because you guys are partnered with this pharmaceutical company, I can help you by making nightmares, all the dreamscape like a nightmare. So that way the people who can afford it can take these pills that make you dream alone. So what ends up happening is Warner works for them. He's basically forced to. Prayer she talks her way up into becoming the president of the company, and Usher becomes her lawyer. And so they end up making a shit ton of money. And so Prayer scales up, so does Usher. And they're like, Warner, we have money, I can help you now. But Warner waits, so he continues to work for them for a year. Until all of a sudden, he's like, hey, I'm leaving, I've done my time. And he's like super rich. He's like one of the richest people in the world. And they don't know that yet. And so he scales up to the size of a giant. He's the largest one to have ever existed in this world because he scales up to the size of a big rich. And what he immediately does is he shows up to the floating palaces of the big rich people and starts killing them left and right because he's so tired of the inequality present. And so what ends up happening is because they're big rich, they keep the economy afloat because they're so big. They have all the little poors, the middle poors working for them and everything. And they basically coerce the government into telling Warner that if he doesn't stop his reign of terror, they're gonna nuke him. And so in order to survive, he scales down to the size of a middle poor, but he gives up the rest of his wealth so that all the little poors in that area can scale up to be middle poors. And so he devotes the rest of his life, along with his sister and Kitty, to help little poors across the world and try to end poverty. So that's the plot of this book. And this book just it was so good because it was so out there. Because this world definitely was supposed to be definitely like American capitalism, but flipped on its head. So, here everybody wants to work up to become rich, upward mobility. But here, this book, by focusing on little poors, it basically shows how impossible that is. So this book deals with a lot of different aspects that we see in the news today, such as police brutality, but it's done with these little poors. And it also deals with the prison system, how it furthers the idea of poverty and everything. It also deals with classism and class inequality. This book was just so good, but it's so weird because everything was done by sizes. And so, yeah, so that's Mun Mun by Jess Andrews. And as I said before, this book's so weird, but it's so good. I totally recommend it to anybody who wants a really quirky book that's really out there, but does have a good message at heart. So I do recommend this book. Thanks for watching. That was my overview / analysis of Mun Mun by Jess Andrews. And please, if you liked the video, please like it and please subscribe. We're a chill little place here. It's just me and my dark circles talking about books. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.